Magdalena, you're from Argentina, living in Tijuana. You're the CEO of Enerprise Tech Products. Thank you very much for being with us. Very exciting. You participated in EXO Leaders, and we're very excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Gustav, for letting me in this nice process of EXO Leaders, a beautiful book, and congratulations for your project.
Thank you very much. Well, I like to start these interviews out with questions about you. Tell us something we might not know about you.
That's a nice question. Well, I have been with so many people in Latin America, Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, and Mexico itself for so many years that it's difficult because I meet people and I try to be very open with myself. But maybe there are some audiences that don't know that I love the corporate world, having worked in lovely companies such as Avon Cosmetics, PepsiCo, Abinbev. But at the same time, I love nature. I love the farm life. My family has founded or has had a farm in Argentina for many years. So my switch off and my second life is there.
They say that the best meat is actually made in Argentina.
Yeah, I would say that right now I have to be very careful being in Mexico, in the north of Mexico. The Sonora meat may compete with the Argentinian beef.
Well, you've had a fantastic career working as an executive in huge companies. What stands out in your mind?
I would say that having great teams is the thing that really stands. Of course, depending on the size of the market, the responsibility has been different. But from junior people really having that enthusiasm, never lost to really learn and develop themselves, the team from Peru, from Bolivia, and at the same time having great mentors. You have to do your career with people who can really teach you. It doesn't matter the age you have, but really inspire an organization, your teams, and also your mentors to really drive a nice career. You don't do it alone. Of course, the evolution of more than 20 years in my career path has to do with a lot of learning, a lot of, looking at yourself in the mirror and understanding what is your personal style for a specific culture and what are the things you really need to adapt and change and reinvent yourself. That is a constant, I would say, learning which stands out in my career.
When you wrote the article, you were the one of the lead executives of Avon within the beauty sector. And it kind of threw me off because now you're the CEO of Enerprise Technological Products, which is a completely different sector. So we had to rewrite the questions. Tell us about this new company you're working with.
Yeah, well, that's true, Gustav. What I wanted and my intention was to learn new things, complete new things from 17 years of direct selling industry, which was fantastic because it was the same company, but different markets and different change in CEO. So I did relearn from the different stages in Avon. But for my next chapter, I was really willing to change and learn what is coming up in the next 10 years. That has to do with technology. Culture as well is something that I have been very passionate about. And what I can say right now, I changed the profile of the company I have been working and learning from a fantastic family business in the north of Mexico, Tijuana, Baja California, in which this family is really willing to change and to bring, institutionalization, best practices from corporate companies, and technology. Technology is a trending topic that from my generation and maybe for more mature businesses is a challenge. So right now, the profile of these companies have to do much more with startups approach, with a spin-off of all the products and services that have been created by the group, and now selling them to third parties. Not only Mexico, but even we have been having visits from Chile as well as Argentina with this interest of technology trends.
That's incredible. Most people do not change sectors. And it seems to me from your answers that this is something that you're actually looking for. Is it something that you would recommend people to change sectors once in a while in their career?
Well, I think that is one of the elements that also stand out in my career is don't become comfortable in your zone, the famous comfort zone. Of course, the more experienced you become, the more senior you become, that's more difficult because you are afraid of, needing to learn new things if you're a senior with X expertise. I think that I had started with this approach 2 or 3 years ago. I went to Singularity, San Francisco, and I was the oldest member in the group, or one of the oldest. We were about 250 people, and I would say we were 5 over 50s. That was overwhelming, smart young people who had their own company, startups, and they were no older than 25 years old. So I said, Magda, you need to learn from these guys. So that I would say that my intellectual journey started 3 years ago. And within the process of Avon and changes that have been happening, this choice was already prepared for me. So my advice would be, it's tough, but it's so amazing. And you get so much learning and so much young in your spirit if you're willing to do. Of course, it requires a lot of effort, but it's very gratifying.
You mentioned in your article that diversity and inclusion is a key factor for success. How does that affect the way you lead?
Well, I've been in companies that have been very generous with myself. Being a woman, the first woman as a brand manager in Pepsi, then in Ambev, the first sales manager, of course, with a lot of support. And many people made the questions, is Magda, being a woman, being able to have a conversation with a distributor? And people, understood that diversity was, something informal at that time, many years ago, that it was necessary to have diversity. Then, of course, joining the company for women, Avon, in Avon, Argentina, was something completely different from me because I was used to be working with men for so many years, and now going to a very female-oriented company was a shock for me, right? So I was one of the ambassadors with many other leaders to inspire women who didn't have resources to have their own economic independence. And that is what Avon gave me at that time. And that has a lot to do with inclusion, right? Because diversity had to do with gender. Inclusion has to do with how you really help people who have no access to formal education to really drive, their own motivation, their independence, economic independence, and so on. So how do I do it, and how I have been doing it? It's difficult to have different people in your team. It's a challenge. It's much easier to have people who are the same as you, who think the same as you, and who will say everything yes. You will not drive change as well as prosperity if you really have the same team with the same, features, profiles, backgrounds. And now more than ever, you need different people. And I have learned a lot about culture. It has to do with gender, but it has to do also with ways of working, generations. Today, company have 5 generations. So it's not the same to, having a conversation with a Z generation, with a baby boomer. And you need to make them happy all to be successful in your businesses. So it's a big challenge. Every day I learn something new. But I think that the leaders who are aware and not a cliche about diversity and inclusion are the leaders who will be really successful to drive differences in the business and have a positive social impact as well.
Have you ever felt the glass roof that people talk about, and how were you able to break through it?
Yeah, since I was a child, we were 3 sisters. My father had always expected the boy. So that was a challenge since I was a child. But the true thing is, if you are aware of your responsibility, when you grow up, when you see that you can really complement, because this has to do with men, with all people who can support women. It's not against men. And I did find some barriers at the beginning, with the questions, would Magda be ready to be a sales manager within the beer company, within the beer industry, where men were having men's conversations? And I tried to reinvent myself. At that time, there were not many role models. So I would say there's still a journey for us women. And my responsibility after so many years is really helping other women to develop themselves, be role models. The good news is that right now the world is changing, And we women have, the senior women have the responsibility to inspire other women, as well as work with sisterhood. There's so many legends about women not working well together that I really break, and I try to break with other women to really position ourselves as, being a great team for diversity and inclusion with a future generation of women.
What do you feel are the greatest challenges for organizations within the next couple of years?
Change, absolute change. The pandemic opened our eyes as leaders in the organizations. It absolutely affected economy, P&Ls. So many companies working with a triple bottom line, that is to say, the engagement with sustainability, which we have to be aware that we have to make businesses understanding the business impact, but also the community impact. So that's being tough. At the moment the pandemic started to stabilize, the post-pandemic effects, mental health and so on. So you need to care about people. So many things in the world have happened, wars. It seems that we human beings have a very short mind of what is tough. So making businesses in that context is really challenging. There's so much conversation about technological changes as well as artificial intelligence. And that also will impact behind the rules of the businesses, ethics, data privacy, and the most challenging piece has to do with talent. How to have the right organization with, the spirit of purpose in the businesses without losing those talents, because there will be a lot of, demand of talent and a lot of, talent headhunting behind or among companies. So there's a lot going on. And in this context, emotional intelligence will be a key driver for us leaders and, of course, for managers and people who lead teams.
How do you feel, this is off script, I know, but how do you feel that artificial intelligence will affect your company?
Artificial intelligence will help my company as the profile has to do a lot with technological solutions. And what it will bring is a better experience for the B2B and for the B2C, and drive really better insights of how the business can improve. What I think is there's a lot of conversation behind how technology will replace, jobs. I think what we need to do as companies, as community in general, even governments, is how to really foresee which are the next careers so that we can really protect people who are afraid of losing jobs and have universities, public education ready to have those, minds to articulate a better way of AI. And of course, there's a lot of ethics behind this. Any evolution, scientific revolution, technological revolution, I think needs to be aware about ethics. And there's a lot of conversation, not many answers, but I think that we do have common sense behind ethics and compliance of what is right and what it isn't when you make businesses.
What can we expect from Enerprise Technological Products within the next couple of years?
From the inside part, I would say the pride of the founder, who is a very, very strategic visionary, who started with the conventional business of energy 25 years ago, and now is really foreseeing that this kind of businesses with a spin-off will really drive value to the corporation, within the inspiration of himself to drive a great succession with his family. And on the other hand, the proud of a Mexican company who can really add value to the world behind technological solutions on a world-class stature. So I believe those are the things that are going to happen in the next years.
Why was it important for you, Magda, to participate in EXO Leaders within the subject of making the impossible happen?
I think that having a community of leaders behind different sectors that share their experiences with love, that share their learnings with humility, and having, this sharing behind the book, the fantastic book, and all the podcasts and interviews you are driving, Gustav, is very inspiring because many times people say that CEOs are alone, right? We feel lonely. So understanding that there are other colleagues driving this kind of challenges is very gratifying. And EXO Leaders has really provided me this vision and this, sharing with other people.
Thank you so much.
Thanks you.